14, we find the Hebrew word Jehovah Jireh, which means the Lord is my provider. Exodus chapter 17 and verse number 15, we find Jehovah Nissi, which means the Lord is my banner under which we can rally for victory. Right. Exodus chapter 31 and verse number 13, we find the Hebrew word Jehovah Mekadesh, which means the Lord is the one who sanctifies. Judges chapter 6 and verse number 24, we find Jehovah Shalom, which means the Lord is my peace. Yes, Jeremiah chapter 11 and verse number 20, Jehovah Sabaoth, which means he is the Lord of hosts. Yes. Psalms 23 and verse number 1, we find Jehovah Rahi, which means the Lord is my shepherd. Jeremiah chapter 23 verses 5 and 6, we find Jehovah Sidkenu, which means the Lord is our righteousness. Yes. Ezekiel chapter 48 and verse number 35, we find Jehovah Shammah, which means the Lord is there, or the Lord is our dwelling place. These are names that the Bible introduces unto us, which reveals something about God's character. Right. They reveal something about his personality and his power. The Bible not only shows us the actual names for God, but it also gives us some symbolic names for God. For instance, in Daniel chapter 7 and verse number 9, he is called the Ancient of Days. In Deuteronomy chapter 32 and verse number 18, he is called our rock. In Psalms 9, verse number 9, he is called our refuge. Yes. In Genesis 15 and verse number 1, he is called our shield. In Psalms 84:11, he is called our son. 2 Corinthians chapter 1 and verse number 3, he's called the Father of mercies. James chapter 1 and verse number 17, he's called the Father of lights. Yes, Ephesians chapter 1 and verse number 17, he's called the Father of glory. Yes. All of these names and titles, my brothers and sisters, literally describe the work of God. They describe the personality of God. They describe the power of God and the character of God. And I think I also ought to inform you this morning that God takes all of his names seriously. God takes these names which describe him. God takes these names which to us define him, and he tells us, don't ever take my name in vain. Exodus chapter 20 and beginning at verse number 7, we see that God doesn't play when it comes to his name. His names describe something about him that men otherwise would not know. But when God lets his name be glorified and magnified and manifested, it tells us something about the God who created heaven and earth. Yes. Therefore God, even when he was giving the commandments to Moses, one of the commandments was that the children of Israel was not to take the name of the Lord in vain. Exodus chapter 20 and verse number 7, the Bible says, thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. I need you to hear that this morning. God is serious when it comes to his name. His name means something. His name stands for his power, for his character, and his personality. And God says in his word, I will not hold him guiltless that takes my name in vain. Look also with me at Leviticus chapter 19 and beginning at verse number 12. Leviticus chapter 19 and verse number 12 also proclaims unto us the fact that God is serious when it comes to his name. Leviticus chapter 19 and verse number 12, the Bible says, and ye shall not swear by my name falsely, Neither shalt thou profane the name of thy God. I am the Lord. Even here, when we understand that God is telling them or instructing them and commanding them not to take his name in vain, to take his name in vain, or to profane it as God was prohibiting them to do, was literally to use God's name in an irreverent and an unrespectable manner. Notice even in the passage in Leviticus, he says, thou shalt not swear by my name falsely. There are people who like to try to call God into account for witness for an oath that they're trying to make. And when they do that, they'll say, I swear by God, or I swear before God. And even here, God informs us that we are not to take his name as collateral for some oath that you're trying to make. Whenever you swear by God's name, you are profaning God's name. You are taking God's name in vain for the mere fact that you have no right to call God into account for a vow that you're trying to make. You're not on the same status with God. You're not on the same level with God. And to take his holy name and attach it to an oath that you know you have no intention on keeping is to swear falsely by his name. In Matthew chapter 5, beginning at verse number 34, Jesus puts it like this. He says, you've heard that it hath been said, thou shalt not forswear thyself. He says, but I say unto you, swear not at all, neither by heaven, because that's God's throne, neither by earth, because that's his footstool, neither by your own head, because you don't have the power over your own head. He said, you can't make one hair black or white. He says, so therefore, let your communication be yea, yea, and nay, nay. Say what you mean and mean what you're going to say. Don't be calling God into account. Profaning his holy and his divine name. When an individual takes God's name in an irreverent or irrespectable manner, they are taking the holy name of God and using it in a way that's dishonorable and disrespectful to God. It's using God's name casually or flippantly by attaching God's name to something or someone who's not on the same level or status with God. In Hebrews chapter 6 and verse number 13, the Bible informs us that when God made the promise to Abraham, because he could swear by no greater, he swore by himself. God is the only one who has a right to swear by his name. And because there's no one higher than him, because there's no one as great as him, God, when he made the promise to Abraham, when he swore by his own name. Because God cannot take his own name in vain. Because he knows his status. He knows his ability to do whatever he wants, whenever he wants, and however he wants. He's a sovereign God. Yes, sir. He has all power. He's informing us that you're not to take my name in vain. You're not on the same status with me. So don't use my name casually. Don't use my name flippantly. Don't just throw my name around in the course of your casual conversation. The Bible lets us know that God commands us not to take his name in vain. Yes, right. When we do that, my brothers and sisters, we're showing no respect for the holiness or the reverence of God. Right. Therefore, God commands us, yes, do not take my name in vain. That's right. I'm mighty afraid that I must announce to you that there are, unfortunately, people religiously, even this